Hey everyone, it's been a couple of weeks since we had a patch in the Cycle Frontier, but I'm going to be going over the latest changes that will be coming tomorrow in patch 2.4.0. There was a patch 2.4 in the betas, but this is 2.4.0 since it's the full game. So, this is the right video for you. They start off the patch notes with something not super interesting for me. They limited the friend list to 250 friends, so if that affects you, okay. But then let's get to the weapons and gear patches. They mentioned that in patch 2.5, there's going to be some big changes or more changes coming to weapons and gear. So we might see some more balance. Basically, all that's coming in 2.4 is they're bringing back Hunter Vision. Now, if you don't know what Hunter Vision is, basically it's one of the perks that you can get from forging your armor on Theros Island. Essentially what it is it's kind of like a wall hacks type perk, which a lot of people are upset about. They tried to bring the perk back in a much less aggressive way by making it so that there's a sound cue when somebody's using the Hunter Vision. So they make a noise whenever they have the Hunter Vision active. I'm guessing it's like the night vision where you can turn it on or off. And then they basically reduce the ranges that you can see people at. If my high school math teacher saw this, she'd be real upset because there are no units. So I don't really know what 3,000 to 100 or to 1,500 means. But we'll have to see. I don't have a helmet with this perk on it, so I can't really show you, but we'll see. I have to imagine that when you get killed by this helmet, you're not actually going to know that it has this perk on it. So whether you're going to be like, ooh, maybe he had night or Hunter Vision, maybe that's how he knew where I was. I don't know. I think that having this in the game can only increase cheater accusations, and I think that's a bad thing for the look for the game, so we'll see how it goes. I'm not super optimistic about that. Theros Island did get some improvements though. A lot of people have been complaining about how ratty it is on Theros Island, and so they've changed a number of dark corners that have been smoothed or illuminated, a general reduction of stuff to hide behind in the pit. I'm assuming this is where the forge is. It could also be Storm Pillar? I'm not sure. The pit isn't a named location on the map, so that's a little confusing, but and then apparently there were some locations where if you would try and pick up gear from them, you would suddenly just die from the void. I'm not sure, I didn't ever experience that, but maybe some of you did. Now here's my favorite thing that they're changing with Theros Island. They're increasing the frequency of the storm. They're reducing the time in between storms by 9 minutes, which is pretty significant. That's almost like 33% less time between storms, which I feel like should have a pretty strong effect on how often you can forge. You don't have to wait as long to forge, since most of the time when you're spawning into a match, you're not spawning in right before the storm. So this will actually be pretty nice. They also say that they're looking into additional adjustments in the future, which I think could be a longer storm phase in general, because 5 minutes isn't super long. Especially if you're going in with a duo or a trio, it's not really enough time for everybody to actually get things forged. They have a bunch of other miscellaneous bug fixes and things that they've changed. I'll go over some of my favorites, but if you want to see the list of the full changes, you can always go down into the description. I've put the link to the full patch notes on there, so if you want to check it out, you can. But I'll just go over a couple of my favorites really quick. One that's going to affect me a lot is not being able to walk on the barbed wire and thorny vines. So some of the walls and fences and things like that have barbed wire or these vines on them, and you could essentially vault on top of them. Now you're not going to be able to. I think that's the design team trying to limit the amount of places where people can climb up onto, since there are a lot of issues with people getting to places that they shouldn't get to that kind of break the level design. So hopefully that will help with that. Some people I'm sure will be excited to see that they've reduced fog in certain parts of the map. And another huge one is they've increased the script stack size from 1,000 to 10,000. That means that I will get 2 extra stash spaces back for each faction, so that I can actually have more scripts, which I feel like this is still a band-aid. This still feels like a band-aid for the real problem that scripts shouldn't take up space in the first place. I don't think. The Crusher Caverns, essentially the dungeon, has been greatly changed. There's going to be more loot containers or better loot containers, but they also say that there's going to be more monsters, and they've made the Alpha Crusher harder. A lot of people have been complaining that there's not really a lot of endgame content, so maybe this is one of the ways that they're trying to make a harder PvE challenge. I've seen some people that have soloed the dungeon. I imagine that this is probably going to make it impossible to solo the dungeon or make it take a lot longer. I like the idea of having, harder PvE challenges, but in some ways I also don't like that it may be making it harder as a solo player to actually complete all the quests. I think this could provide interesting opportunities for solo players to be resourceful and team up. The risk of backstabbing is always there, so it's a toss-up. I'm not sure how I feel about it. We'll have to see. I definitely think that the loot from the dungeon needed to be increased. Hopefully there's some actually good loot that comes out of it now. There was a bug where you could have the kinetic arbiter and swap it with your secondary weapon back and forth, back and forth until it essentially removed the environmental sounds. Apparently that bug has been fixed now. So if you ever felt like somebody heard you when they were on a drill or something like that, they've fixed that bug now. So that's going to be really nice. Also, yeah, I noticed that the Crusher wasn't there by Skeleton on Crescent Falls, so it looks like that was a bug, and the Crusher that spawns at Skeleton is now going to come back. So that's nice to have another Crusher location, since it is so frustrating to try and find Crusher flesh and kill like all the Crushers on the map and not get any Crusher flesh. So hopefully I'll be able to get to level 9 of my player quarters pretty soon. Maybe. I still need like another 100 Letium, so it's fine. Another little note here, the laser drill is now going to carry the backpacks with it as it returns back to the station. As they say that is intended. I think a lot of people were hoping that gravity would just make those bags drop once the laser drill flew away, but it looks like today's not your lucky day, and those backpacks are just going to be gone, as opposed to just floating in the air. I don't know how I feel about this change, because the amount of time that you have before the ship leaves and the drilling is over is actually not very long. I wish that they could maybe give it a little bit more time before the laser drill actually flew off, because I think right now it's like maybe like 30 seconds. You don't have very long before the end of the drilling cycle and the actual laser drill leaving. I've lost a lot of loot to being like, oh, I can't grab anything else, it's gonna fly back. Like, what's the rush? Oh, and another thank heavens, hallelujah, the Fortuna Pass level 100 pop-up won't appear again after reaching level 100. Oh my gosh, such an annoying bug. I'm so thankful that they fixed that. Oh my gosh. It also looks like they've done a little bit more work on teleporting creatures. Last time they said that they fixed the teleporting creatures, it didn't really work, so we'll see. Another little PvP bug change is that the occlusion within buildings was making it so that you couldn't hear people in the same building as well. They've made it so that you can more easily hear people that are moving around in the same building as you, which might be helpful for actually PvP fights. Sometimes when you're inside a building, you can hear the people outside really well, and sometimes when you're outside the building, you can hear the people inside really well. But if you're both inside the building, you can't really hear each other. I don't know, there's a little bit of weird occlusion stuff going on, so maybe they've made that better. But anyways, that's the patch notes for 2.4.0. I'm looking forward to see how these changes affect things. I think the biggest thing is going to be the way that Theros Island plays. I know that at this point in the season, I'm pretty much mostly intrigued by trying to forge and get good sets of armor and things like that. So this should help my grind out a lot, as I won't have to wait as long to start to forge, as sometimes it feels like whoever gets to the forge first just kind of ends up sitting there and waiting because they just want to forge, but then it ends up feeling like they're just ratting and they're not actually like playing strategically because you're just waiting there. But then like, why wouldn't I wait there quietly? And so I hope that helps just kind of the flow of Theros Island, so that it feels like, okay, we have a little bit of time to get some iron and get all of the cores that we need to get the stuff to upgrade, yada yada. Hopefully it just flows a little bit better. So thank you all for watching the video. If this was helpful to you, please do subscribe. Most of the people that watch my videos aren't subscribed to them, so don't be one of them. Join the community, and I'd really appreciate any support that you can all give me by leaving any comments, liking the video. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you out there, prospectors. Peace out.